and welcome to Scale Car Garage. Welcome to part 3 of molding and casting. As you can see, our first pours are now cured. Yes, we have cured silicone. The next step, well, demold and pour number 2. So let's get to that right here at Scale Car Garage. All right, so here we are on our workbench. We have the molds that we poured, our first pour. Now we're going to demold them. That is, just take these out of their mold boxes. And if you remember, we used jewel cases for 3 of these molds. And now you can use, well, let me explain what has to happen. You have to, with some sort of flat tool or instrument, and you can do it with your fingers as well, you have to sort of separate the, there you go, the silicone from the sides and let some air in, and then it should demold without a problem. So knives work, but I would really recommend using, if you remember these from making the molds, we're using the clean clay and so forth. And we have various sizes of putty knives, and also I have my wonderful palette knife. And again, with a palette knife, you just try to get in and just get some air in. There we go, like that. Palette knife is a little too flexible, so I would really recommend trying to use this putty knife because it's just the right amount of stiffness. So if I can move these to the side, let's just, there we go. And you do this on each side of the mold box and try to push down on the silicone rubber as not to crack the mold box. So let's try in here. As you can see, when I pull down and out a little bit, you can see how the RTV silicone is separating itself from the mold box. And just be patient and work around the entire mold, like so. The ends are a really good place to start separating. There we go. You can see it pulling out there. Oh, did you hear that? There we go. See that? Hopefully there isn't too much glare. And we're going to very carefully here, like so. And it helps to put it down on a counter or a workbench or something, just so that you don't break the mold box. And patience is the most important thing at this stage. Just take your time. We worked really hard to make a nice mold. Let's make sure that we can get it out. And there we go. See that? Let's try it with my fingers now. See if that can, there we go. Very, very slowly, slowly, not to break the mold box. I think it's starting to crack a wee bit, but that's okay. It's still very usable for another mold. And here we go. You can see how very carefully work out. Here we go. Just dance it out. There we go. There's our mold box, the jewel case. Put that to the side. And here is our mold. Now you can see the clean clay here that we used. Now this is where you might need an X-Acto knife of some sort to trim away some of the excess RTV silicone. That's just a little cut. Yeah, whoops. That away. It's very light here. And like so. And just very carefully. Yeah, it's tearing it where it should be. There we go. It's tearing nicely, as it should be. There we go. Okay. And we've got some RTV silicone here to, there we go. You can hopefully see that. And try not to pluck it yourself, because you may take off more silicone than you would like to. So be patient and use a knife. All right, just put that to the side. Now let's separate RTV silicone here. Okay. And there is the bottom of our interior. And it had a little bit of leakage as well. Let's grab the knife again. Oh, so now we have our clean clay, which if sometimes you do get, you can see there's some RTV silicone in the clean clay, like this piece right here. You know, just dispose of it if it's a little tiny piece, and there's a little bit here in this crack. You can see that there's some, if you can pull it out, there we go. And there's a little bit here. There we go. Take as much of the silicone off your clean clay as you can. And this is why we can put the used clean clay back in with used clean clay and use it again. Isn't that brilliant? Back to our mold here. Okay, we have to do a little bit of cleanup, just a wee bit. It's always easier to remove, although you can add silicone as well if you really have to. But I'm just going to show you how I take this apart here. So I just make a little incision here, like so, and then like so. Right. And you can see how, just being very careful and taking your time, get a really nice edge, like so. Now, this is also another important part. You'll see that you get a meniscus effect where the silicone forms a U shape, which is fine. But if you're when we use this as an actual mold, and we're going to have to use the mold box again to build up the sides of our second pour, you don't want this lip here. So all you need are some ordinary scissors, and just cut along the edge of the bottom of your mold, like so, to square it off. Because you'll see you have a nice flat surface there, and it will sit nice and flat, not only for the second pour, but also for when we put this mold in our pressure pot for casting. We want it to sit as flat as possible. There we go. Just a little nice and easy. Go. Now, this silicone that you've just trimmed, very easy to just toss it away, but you can actually use this in the second pour. So can actually save this. Big enough pieces that we can actually save it. And we are. I'm just going to put it over here. I actually have a spot for them, for excess silicone. We're going to leave this as it is. I do not want to risk ruining this mold. Okay, so with the mold the way this is, we're going to leave this as it is, and then we're going to prepare it for its second pour. Righto, because we only have one plane to remold actually too. Yeah, so that's fine the way it is. Okay, so there's one done. Let's do the second one here. So again, let's take our putty knife and very carefully insert it, pushing down, and you can see the air. There we go. You can see the separation of the rubber from the mold box, which is great. So very carefully, nice and easy. go. And do this in two. Nice and easy. There we go. See the air come in. And one more side here. Nice and easy. I think we have the air in. Good show. Now, let's do the method we used before, where we're going to dance in our putty knife and pull. Okay. Slowly, one side. And we'll dance in our putty knife here. And pull. Good. Dance in our putty knife again. And pull. And here we go. Starting to separate. There we go. See what we can do with our fingers now. Very, very careful. Very, very carefully pull out our RTV silicone from the mold box. And here we go. Lovely. Lovely. All right. There's another mold box that we can clean up. Oops, excuse me. All right. So you can see we've got some RTV silicone here around the clean clay. Go. And here a little bit. Just fine. So a wee bit there, and a wee bit there. All right. So let's out. And these are our photo etch parts. Wow. I think this is going to work. We have to do a little bit of cleanup, but okay. You can see that, hopefully you can see that it actually, I think this actually might work. Wow. Okay, folks. This is exciting. This is exciting. I've never done photo etch parts before. Or tried to cast them, I should say. And it looks like we might actually have a chance at making this work. So like that here. See other full photo etch. Oh my goodness, look at that. The real trick is going to be getting it back in and lining it up. But there we go. All right. We'll tidy this up. All right, and I'm getting so encouraged by this. What is this? This is, of course, the side view mirror. Wow. Okay. Okay, we have, if you hopefully remember this, these are the parts to the body of our Porsche. I'm going to use the bigger putty knife here, and as you can see, for good reason, because you really want to get in there and you can really press down. You can see that. There we go. Lovely. Okay. And let's do side here. You remember that was our stop mark for the first pour. So you know what, I can actually take that off. Okay. So you can see that. Press down. And this is the best way to reuse mold boxes too. And I mean, everybody has these wonderful jewel cases, and they do come in handy for a lot of things. Okay, the air you can see is getting up there, and now the end here if we can get into there we go. Yes, lovely. Carefully now, carefully. There we go. And down we go. Okay. There we go. Look at that. Ah, that's a great satisfying feeling when you feel the mold move out of the box, the mold box like that. It's just like, wow, that is just so cool. There we go. Let's see if we can get this a little more. There we go. Okay, so let's move on this side over here and see if we can get this side to move. I hope. And I think we can. There we go. And since we've started to move this side, let's go with it. There we go. Carefully. And this is real time, folks. I know you can skip search if you like, by all means, but I just want to show you that taking your time is really important and really gives wonderful results. Let's see if maybe the smaller one here will help me a little more. There we go. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Lovely, lovely bits. There we go. Look at that. There we go. Okay. Yes. And if I can get my thumb in there, we can just keep pulling. There we go. All right. There we go. Lovely. Lovely. All right. There's our bumper. Now, you can see where I put a little bit of plastic glue. Just take something, and I'm going to use the artist's palette knife here, and just take off the wee bit of adhesive that I put. You can't recycle once you've put like something to hold it down. Just remove it, and you'll take some clean clay with it, unfortunately, but very little. But it really helps with the first pour. And there we go. And you can see the adhesive there. Just a little bit of white glue, but it really did the job. So clean clay. All right, let's take a look at our molds here. There's the bumper. What do we got here? Oh, the rear boot cover. Lovely, lovely. Right. Take that out. Wow. And you can see how, first let me just remove this quickly here so I can hopefully show you what we're going to be doing for our second pour for all of our parts. But you can really, I think this is a good illustrative point here. You actually have to place the part back in the mold as it was originally set and poured, and you see how it just moves right back in, finds its way, beautiful. And then we're going to do a second pour, but before we do that, actually we have to spray mold release, and we'll go through that part. Anyway, I just want to take the clean clay out. That's really all I'm wanting to do at this point. And then, oh my, the part came apart. It's okay. There we go. I'll fix that. No problem. Let's just see how the molds turned out here. Okay. Oh yes, the arms for the figure. Lovely. Okay. All right. Keep doing with that. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, folks, I know you're just like me. You're wanting to see how this one turns out. The body for this, we're actually, because we made our own mold box, we'll probably have to use this mold box again. So we're going to turn it upside down and take this bottom off. So for this, we will need a knife, and a substantial knife actually, because what we're going to do is we're going to cut the hot glue around the bottom and remove it, and then the bottom of the mold box should lift off, and that should expose our mold. So let's do that right now. Here we go. Okay, so it is best to put it flat when you're cutting, and that way you can hopefully not injure yourself. So I'm going to start in this corner here. Just make a little slice in the corner on the hot glue. There we go. See that, I hope. All right. That should be enough to get things started. Here we go. And you can see how it lifts off, because the hot glue doesn't really stick to anything. So let me just show you how that comes right off, like so. Here we go. Now before you come to the next corner, make a very small cut here where the bottom hot glue joins the side hot glue. Again, let's put this flat, keep our hands away, and just make a little cut, like so. See that? See that there? Put the knife down, and then continue to pull the hot glue, like so. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that lovely? Another corner. We had a little bit of a leak here that we plugged up with some hot glue. Again, keep your hands away. It's always a good rule. And cut away from yourself. That's always a good rule of thumb as well. Should do it. Okay, oops. So here we go. To the next corner here. Again, let us be careful. Make a little slice there. Lift. Oops. That's where we had to make a repair, so have to use our knife, and there we go. Lift that up a wee bit. There we go. And that's all of the hot glue off the bottom. Now, taking our putty knife, I'm going to try and separate the bottom from our mold. Let's see how well we can do that. Through here. I may have actually ruined this piece of foam core, but so be it. Here we go. And it's separate. There we go. Well, I think we built a pretty good mold box. Just gonna take this off just fine. And there's our clean clay plug. One of the things we're going to have to do for our second pour is actually remove this mold, this first pour mold, from the mold box. Again, we're going to be using our putty knife and just very carefully here separating. Let's start with the small one first, perhaps, and separate. See that? There we go. There we go. Get in there. Lovely. There we go. See that? This excess silicone can be disposed of. And again, that was what I was referring to before with a meniscus. You'll see it has a bit of a dish to it. We're just going to do an initial separation here using this. There we go, this putty knife. And also at the top here. Here we go. Now you can see how the putty knife goes all the way through the mold box. And that's what we want. We want to separate the silicone from the mold box. So let's try that over here. So it's easy. Take our time. Here we go. Also go all the way through, as you can see. Draw it across. Nice. Very, very nice. Let's do it on. And let's do that all the way around our mold box. And try not to break the work that we've already done. But if it does break, it's no problem because we can always re-glue it. There we go. Go. And here comes the mold out of the mold box. Here we go. Oh. At a time, there we go. And we need this mold box. So the other thing you might want to do, and using a pencil actually works best on the silicone, is to mark the corners so that you have a perfect fit again. So actually, so for illustrative purposes, let's use some masking tape while we still know which is which. Put this over here. We're just going to call this A. And you're wondering, why am I writing it upside down? Well, because we're going to be pouring it upside down. And on the silicone, well, the best we can do is A. There we go. So we know that these two sides, that's the way it should go back in. A up. Righto. Now, we can trim all this stuff off later, but I don't know about you, but I'm excited to see how this is all going to turn out. So, let's be careful. We don't want to break anything. Oh my goodness. Oh, okay. Let's be really careful and try and take the clean clay out. Wow. Although, this is how the body will come out of the mold, actually. So let's try and pop it out. There we go. And And there is. This is how the body will come out of the mold once we finish our second pour. Now let's take a look here and see. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. The door handles are still there. Everything molded so nicely. Wow. Okay. I am quite pleased. Very, very pleased. That's how the body would pop out. And there is mold number 1. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, we lost. We lost the door handle, but it's okay. We'll glue it back on. Although we really don't have to because it's already formed. Look at that. It's there. We don't have to worry about this. That's not bad. I missed that, but look at that. We only had one little part that was removed, which was the hood handle. You see that? The hood handle came off. I didn't notice that before, but that's no problem. When we put this back into the mold, we don't have to put this back on. So let's put it to the side. That's wonderful. That turned out really, really well. Well, isn't this a delightful surprise? Sure, the hood handle came off when I demolded it, but that's okay. This is a wonderful, wonderful surprise. So, what do we do next? Well, we're going to take the blocks out of the body. So we have to take all of the clean clay out very carefully, and then we'll move to the next step. So let's do that right now. And you can see I'm just pulling at the clean clay to see where it'll come off, and it's coming off, I guess, in the reverse order to the manner in which we applied it. So, and we had some intrusion of silicone, no big deal, but we can reuse this clean clay without any issue. There we go. Let's take a look here. Everything seems fine. Oh, got a little bit of something there. There we go. Let's go. Okay. Let's put this in our clean clay bag. All right. And now, oh, you're right, we've got some silicone that went in, which is, just pull that out, dispose of it. So very carefully, we're going to be pulling the clay out of the body, okay, very carefully. You can see the clay is very malleable. There's no reason to rush. Take your time, because we do not want to harm the body at this point. We still need it for the second pour. And you can see around here the body mounts, or the chassis mounts, I should say. Again, I'm getting rather excited here. So we pull this apart. Okay. Use my palette knife here to separate it a little bit. Very careful. There we go. Very carefully. Well, we did a really good job putting the clean clay in, which is fantastic. And I want to be very, very careful. There we go. Oh, got a little more silicone there. And you can see, you just work it out very slowly, very easily. You see how malleable the clean clay. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Look at that. You see that? The clean clay is coming out quite nicely. See that? There we go. And you can hear the tape sort of losing its support. Right. Okay. And we want to be careful not to do anything that would damage the body at this point, because we've come so far with this. It's fantastic. So we're going to just very carefully pull out the clean clay. There we go. And, you know, see, it comes right off. Let's take a quick boo at it, make sure that there's nothing. Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful chunk of clean clay. Oop, there's something in there. Some silicone. Yeah, okay. Let's put this lump in our bag of clean clay. All right. And you can see we had a little bit of, we had quite a bit of silicone intrusion, which is absolutely fine. No problem there. Let's be very careful removing this clean clay. In fact, let's do this. Let's make a little incision in the clean clay, like so, with our palette knife. And remove half of it and then the other half. It doesn't all have to come out as one piece. There we go. Again, being very, very careful, because we've done a lot of work on this car. And we want to make sure that those side parts where the chassis is going to go, we don't want those to break. So this is not a time to rush at all. Hold this down. There we go. Lump of clean clay. Going to very carefully pull this away. Now that we have some space. Go. As you can see, again, I'm going to take my palette knife and just make a little line here to get some off. Go. Just be very careful. See that? We're just taking out the clean clay. Very, very carefully. And you can see it's coming out very nicely so far. Let's get this out of here, like so. You don't get any prizes for taking the clean clay out in one piece. So take your time. Take your time. And as I say that, I hope I get a prize for taking it out in one piece. Wow. Now you can see where we had some silicone come in. Well, that will come out with taking the tape, and we want to take all the tape out. There is our body. There's the clean clay. All right. So let us prep our mold for pour number 2. And again, using our scissors, we want to flatten the bottom. So let's take, here we go. You can see, okay. And we may as well remove this corner flap here. And we'll do the top in a minute. Lovely. And again, we can recycle this, and we will. See, it's going to be cutting here. And you see we're really using fancy tools here, folks. It's just a pair of scissors. Oops. Go. Again, we can recycle this. And go. Now let's trim the corners a wee bit, just to neaten up our mold a little bit. A little bit here. And again, recycle. And on the top, we're going to just do a little trim here, and so forth. Okay. Like so. I just don't recommend recycling any silicone that has paper adhered to it. It's just not a good idea. Okay, there we go, just this little corner here. All right, so our second pour is actually just going to be this plug. Well, isn't this exciting? Here is the body mold, and I'm really pleased with the way it turned out. So now we're going to do our second pour. We're going to do the second pour. It's going to be great. And oops, sorry about that. So what will we need? Well, because we're going to be pouring silicone on silicone, and if you remember, I may have mentioned that the only thing silicone sticks to is silicone. We want to make sure that silicone doesn't stick to silicone. So you use a release agent. Now, you could actually use something like Vaseline, very thinly spread around. That works. I've never done that, but I understand it does work. What I do use is an actual spray of, well, mold release for silicone molds. This is called Ease Release 200. It's a mold release engine used with silicones, urethanes, and resins. And the great thing is it's in a spray form. So let me tell you what we're going to do. With the body out, and this is so important, because if you remember when we were demolding the body and there was silicone that got in where we didn't want it to get in. That always happens. And as hard as we all try, it's going to happen. So to preserve the work that we did with our first pour, remove the body or the part out of the mold and spray the entire interior of the mold with release agent. Why? Because inevitably, even though we will fit this part back in as best we can, there will be some leakage. Some will get around. If you've sprayed release agent before you put the part in, that silicone comes right off. And the work that we did with our first pour is preserved, and that's really important. If you leave the part in and spray, which you can do, and trust me, when I was first doing two-part molds, I did, and you get that little bit of leakage, it ruins the first pour, because now you have an uneven, well, surface, and your part, when you cast it, will show that. So this is what we're trying to prevent. We're trying to prevent anything happening to our first pour, which, if you can see, was a success. So let's move forward, maintaining success, by spraying the interior of this with release agent. Okay? And you don't have to really spray a lot, but what's really important is spraying from different sides. So let us get going with spraying release agent. Here we go. As you can see, I'm going to spray it just a little bit like that. Shake. And I'm going to also spray the top here as well, because inevitably a minute. All right, so we've sprayed our release agent. We're going to take our body and we're going to put it back in the mold. This takes care and attention because we do not want to break the body. So let's put it back in the mold carefully. Oh my goodness, it snapped right in. Did you hear that? It snapped right in. And as you can see, we have the car back in its mold, awaiting the second pour. However, to give it some more structural rigidity, do you remember? We had A and A. So we are going to take our mold box. Let's take this. And we're going to put the mold box over like so. And now what that will do is so if we choose to have a pedestal for our plug, we can now do that, which means that we have to seal this on the back end here. Let me just make sure that, there we go. Okay, and we're going to do that with hot glue. And let's just make sure that we are going to just put a bead of hot glue to seal the foam core against the silicone. And that's all we want to do here is just, it doesn't really stick to the silicone at all. What we're really building is a gasket of hot glue. That's really what we're doing here. So we don't get any leakage. You can see that. Usually, if there is any leakage, it happens in the corners. Go. You can see that. Way around. Another glue stick soon. There we go. So now let's just let the hot glue cool, and we're ready for our second pour. With the silicone mixed and now put into our vacuum chamber for degassing, Degassing has been done, and the silicone will be removed from the vacuum chamber, just as we did for the first pour of our body. We have our mold prepared, and now we're going to use some of the silicone we trimmed off our molds from the first pour and recycle this silicone. What really helps when recycling silicone is to, well, chop it up into small bits. Distribute it around the interior of your cavity for your second mold. And though it doesn't seem like a lot of extra silicone, every little bit helps. Now to pour the second pour. I can't overemphasize how important it is to take your time and pour slowly. As you can see, what you're trying to do is evacuate all of the air gaps using the silicone. Especially with this body, since we have such nice undercuts, we want to make sure that no air is captured in our second pour. And just as with the first pour, you can see how the silicone moves and literally pushes the air out of the space. You can also see how the liquid silicone really accepts the recycled silicone. So we just keep pouring, again elevating our vessel above our mold box to try and break any bubbles that still may be present in our mixture. As I've said many times, I'm trying to show you this in real time. Please feel free to skip search to the parts that you really want to see or rewatch or whatever it may be. But I just want to show you how it doesn't really take that long, but the process is really quite, well, neat. As you can see, there's a bubble rising at the front of our mold. And it looks like it's going to hopefully break. There it goes. And we have completed our second pour of our Porsche 356 Speedster body. Wow, that's looking good. Sometimes it is a little tough to stop, but there we go. It's always good to take a little look and see, oh, there's a bubble right in the middle, and it's so big I'm going to pop it with my finger. And let's get the molds that we still have to pour. We have to pour the interior. We have to pour the second pour for the photo etch. I hope this turns out. I don't know if it will, to be perfectly honest, but we're going to try. And we have two types of mold approaches for the photo etch. Let's see which one works best. And of course, we have the balance of the parts for our car. So we're going to pour the big mold first. We're going to pour the interior, the bottom of the interior first. Then these parts. So let's just set everything up. And you see how I know this was in one container. So when we pour, we're going to actually pour from one to another, to another, to another, to another, to another, to another. And well, let's start with pouring. I'm going to get this closer here. The bottom of the interior. We don't need much of a bottom there actually, but let's hope it doesn't leak. And again, if you hold the bucket or vessel up high, it actually squeezes out any bubbles that might be in the silicone. Here we go. Okay, can watch that pour. And I think I'm just warming up the oven. Don't mind that. All right, so let's start pouring our multi-mold here. That's a good name for it, multi-mold. All right, so let's, and you just want a small stream. We take our time with it here. Start with the boot cover for the convertible top. You can see how it moves. And of course, this has all been sprayed with release agent. So, and it's all over the silicone. So even if it goes over, it won't stick. Now here's a little tip. As soon as you see, there we go. Lift up a little bit. And I think that's going to be a perfect second pour. And we'll move over to the next one. There's a bit of a squiggle of silicone there, but not too much. And, whoops. Oh! That sometimes happens. It's okay. That'll be fine. And you can see how the first pour leveled off. This will level off. Let's move over to the steering wheel. And we made molds for two different steering wheels. We have the stock steering wheel, and we also made a mold for a racing steering wheel. That'll be next. Hang on, we'll move over to that. Just a second here. And you can see, oh, that'll level off nicely to the racing steering wheel. And I know what you're thinking. It's overkill as far as thickness, which is fine. But you know, we can always recycle any silicone. Although I'm not doing it right here because these parts, I really don't want to mess with them, to be honest with you. Here we go. There's the glass. It is a good idea to make the glass molds rather robust because you want to cast the clear resin under more pressure than, say, a regular part or even the body of the car. I know I moved there because it's, I guess I was fixated on it. I should have moved to the dashboard, but that's okay. We're going to get it all done. We'll get them all done. No problem. Let's move over to the dashboard now. There we go. And you can see even on the second pour, you want it to squeeze the air out. You see that? The air is being squeezed out as the silicone moves into the cavity. It's wonderful, just wonderful. All right, that's going to be fine. Let's follow to, oh, you know what? Let's do the glass. I want to make sure we get the glass done. That's really important. And then the rest is, I mean, it all has to get done, but I guess it's the way my little tiny mind works. There we go. And you can see it moving over so nicely. And you want to pour in one area and let it squeeze. There you go. See, it's squeezing the air out. Very, very nice. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, over to the figure. Gently. There we go. There we go. Lovely. Go. Feel free to skip search if I know this is real time, so as I said, feel free to skip search, but I want to show you how the second pour should look, or at least the way that it looks when I do a second pour. So let's do this bumper number 1. There we go. And now, the last pour on this block of pieces, or parts, I should say, excuse me. And here we go. It's squeezing the air out. I'm pouring from a bit of a different perspective here, so hopefully you can catch the silicone squeezing the air out as it goes out over the part and the first pour. Lovely, lovely, just lovely. There we go. All right. So, again, patience. You can see it'll all self-level, which is wonderful. And now let's pour our... I'm actually going to pour in the center. I don't usually do this, but I just want to make sure that the part doesn't move. It's so delicate. It is so, so, so delicate. And I want to try and be so, so careful. Here we go. Let's make sure it doesn't move. Okay. Here we go. Well, let's hope for the best here. Sorry, got a little messy there. Oh, okay, there we go. That should level out quite nicely. And then we will do the, I don't even want to move the other photo etch mold. And I'm going to do the same philosophy. I'm going to start at the top to ensure that we can get the part to mold properly. There we go. Well, here's hoping. I think we've got a good pour there. Now, you know, we have some silicone left over because if you remember from part 1, we also had a figure that we poured. Whoops, wrong one. Here it is. We also poured a figure, if you remember, a monogram spectator. And it's always good to have an extra mold so that if you have extra silicone, you can, well, make more molds. Here we go. Here we go. And again, everything was sprayed with release agent as we did with the body. There we go. I want this right to the top, so we have a nice, robust mold. I think we can do a lot with that figure. Okay. Well, I better make a couple of molds for myself because I have some leftover silicone, so I think I got to do that quickly. But I just wanted to show you the second pour. Of course, we have the body. Let me just bring that over here. We have poured. Ooh, that's still, I got to be careful because that's still a little liquidy. So we have the second pour of the body. We have the second pour of the parts, of the interior, the photo etch parts, and the figure that we made. So now we just have to let this cure, and then you can hear my my toaster oven all revved up. We're gonna let it cure overnight, and then we'll demold, and I'll show you the next step to make some fairly robust molds ready to make parts. So thank you very much for joining me here on part 3 of this series, and I really appreciate all the wonderful comments, and all I can say is thank you also very, very much for joining me here at Scale Car Garage. I hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please leave a comment, like, and subscribe.